We are transitioning to our next session. Welcome, Elias, Torres, and Blake Williams. The future of CRM. What's next?
Let's find out. Let's find
Let's
out.
do it.
Hopefully, Elias will expose us all to what his vision looks like here.
Should I, can you hear me well? Perfect.
Gotcha. All right. Very good. So, Elias, good to meet you. Good to chat with you. Um, dug through a bunch of your interviews and stuff like that in the past. And, you know, you've come from HubSpot, you've come from Drift, and now you're starting agency and not starting, really pressing the gas on agency and the market's with you. So tell me what that feels like. We know a lot about you as a founder. What is it that you're trying to solve or you feel like you're trying to solve now with agency that you didn't get done at Drift, or do you feel like you got it done?
No, absolutely. I mean, I said this before that I consider Drift like my biggest failure, right?
Yeah.
Of like, I think that as a founder, this is my fifth time building a company, and I had great ambitions for Drift, on the backs of HubSpot, and I wanted to do something really, really big. And I learned a lot, right? Every time you build a company, you're like, oh, that's what happened. That's what happened with the market. Did I time it correctly? Did I understand it correctly? Did I match it with technology? And realized that by the end of Drift, I had understood the value of conversations
Mm-hmm.
with the customer, right?
Right.
But the technology wasn't there. The LLMs were not there. I mean, we in fact had AI SDRs at Drift 2019. We were using BERT from
Mm-hmm.
Google. We were understanding. We had a real AI bot, right? That but just right before the LLM came together, as we
Right.
see now. And so when we were not able to take it public, where we're not able to build a product, you realize the mistake of where you started. I think I learned this from Parker. Parker Conrad, founder of Rippling, said it's really hard to start with a little product and then you add other products and make it a multi-product company.
Mm-hmm.
Don't start with the right problem.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
really hard to bolt on our stuff. So I think that was the mistake. We started with a really, really shallow tool that just was on the homepage, help you book meetings, and it was really hard to pivot or to expand into the whole problem. So this
Right.
time I'm starting with the largest problem possible, but the clarity I have is I want to resolve the problem, the challenges that comes with managing customers today, where it's
Right.
extremely manual, right? I mean, it's like the way that we're supporting customers is literally being managed by spreadsheets and notes in a notepad or a node in like, a Google Doc. That's the
Right.
way people operate, whether you are starting or whether you're a multi-billion dollar company.
Yeah. Yeah. Trust me, I've been in Stripe's customer success and service. And if a $1 billion company like that can't figure it out with all the people and resources and technology stack at their disposal, then we know
Yeah.
it's pervasive for sure. Right. So let's go into that, the rigidity of the CRM, right? Not being able to contemplate it says relationship in the name, but everybody knows it doesn't actually help you do anything with a relationship. It might help you in its best state keep receipts. So in your vision of where we're headed, uh, what do you feel like is going to change away from just being able to scale and track activity to actually building those relationships?
I think the word relationship is really the most important part of it, right? It's like what kind of business you're building. I think the more I think about AI in the future, the only reason why I want to do business with someone is because of the relationship, right? I've
Mhm.
said this before, like my barber treats me better than a multi-billion dollar company, right?
Right.
Multi-billion company sends me an email that says, "Dear first name."
Yeah.
My barber sends me a text in the morning on Saturday and says, "Don't be late. I miss you."
Right.
So
Yes.
like when I get to the shop, like he just says, "Do you want to do the usual?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." Right?
Yeah.
It's so nice that I don't
Yeah.
have to explain myself, and we just get to catch up a little bit. Like, how are the kids? What
Yeah.
happened? He went to on vacation to Lebanon, and move on, right? That to me is high.
Yes.
It's not
Yeah.
stress. It's like
Yeah.
the man spot. It's like my 20 minutes where I just like lay down on the chair.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. That reminds me of that book, Irrational Hospitality. And I think there's a section
Oh,
in there where they talk about like this restaurant that already knows what you had last time. And it's kind of that same experience where we don't really need to catch up on all of the basics to be able to just get started, and we avoid all of that friction. Um, so if someone's listening today, what are the things that they need to start to think about? Because everybody has a rigid CRM that isn't functioning this way today. Right? What are the things that they need to think about?
I'm thinking about CRMs, right? It is we have to think about as a founder, as a business person, right? Is that what is the experience that we want to give the customer?
Right.
I'm a big fan of irrational hospitality, right? It's like I get the goosebumps, right? When it's like it's your anniversary, you left the champagne bottle in the fridge, they send a waiter to the house.
Yeah.
The couple was there and they're like about to explode. And so they're like, by the time home, it's just like that's what I like to think as a founder, how I
Right.
want to treat an individual. And
Mm-hmm.
my hope, I'm being selfish, right, is that if I treat you well, you stick with me as a customer.
All
That's
day.
I'm being point blank, right? I mean, this is no not fake, right? It's like I want to treat you the best because I don't ever want you to leave me. And if I
Mm-hmm.
stop treating you the best, and if I stop contacting you, then that's when people turn, right?
Yes.
You have it.
Yes.
So I think that that's what we need to think. It's not about the stupid fields and the stupid drop downs or the things I have to. It's like, how do I want to treat my customer? And we have to figure out now from first principles, how do we enable for that, right? Which,
Mm-hmm.
Four Seasons is very famous for hospitality, right? And being
Yep.
able to say, how do we treat people? And like Mr. Torres, when I come back in, they remember me. Like I usually stay like at the Four Seasons in Embarcadero in San Francisco, right? So it's like I just want to go there just because the doorman knows my name, you know.
Yes.
So like
Yes.
that's what we need to optimize for. And so like how does our systems help us treat customers in that way? How
Right.
are we reminded, right, of what they're going to do or what do we want them to do and what they've done and where they've gone on vacation, right? So like that's what we need to be demanding of our systems. It's not
Mm-hmm.
data, it's action.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, when you think about this, so what I just heard is like the CRM is the wrong solution to the problem that we actually want to solve. And most companies aren't oriented towards that kind of behavior, either from their activities or even just their strategy of how that trickles down into execution, right? That being what's the biggest leap that you can make, or where's the best place for somebody to start if they're going to tie in an agent? Where should they start?
The first place, I hate getting tactical, but let's get tactical, right? The first problem, that's not true. I like being tactical. It's really unifying the data,
Mm-hmm.
right? The big problem, I've been saying the word, I've been in MarTech 15 plus years, right? I've been saying unification of data, customer 360, one view. At HubSpot, we
Yeah.
build a timeline and you can see all the stuff. I hate the timeline, by the way, like in UIs. Like, I don't give a shit about that timeline, right?
When it happened. Yeah.
It's like, whatever. Like, I don't want to scroll through a timeline. The key thing is the data needs to be in one place.
Mm-hmm.
It is absurd that a human can keep up with so many customers and having to check in 17 places for information that makes sense. And God forbid copy and paste something into a chat GPT. So step one is unified data. If
Right.
you don't have that, like I see people are excited. They're like, look, I can go into Gong and I can copy the transcript and then I go put it into Chat GPT and then I go put it into Claude and then I go to Perplexity and no, we need everything in one place.
Right. So one place, and the narrative around, actually, let me just ask what is that overarching narrative that, or POV that you think hits at those blind spots that keeps people from doing that tactical POV type thing?
Well, the thing is that there's just not enough companies that are ambitious enough to say, um, understand the problem of data that customers have and solve for that, right? Everybody kind of solves for their platform, right? If you're like a meeting recorder, then I'm a meeting recorder, right? And then and they might think what's convenient to them and versus not. If you're a CRM company, then you think you want or own everything, but in fact you don't, right? And they're not making a huge effort. It's more like what fields they created, and then that's what you put in it. You could be Snowflake, right? You could be database, you could be spreadsheet. What we need to do is listen to the customer and say, where is your data, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Job is to bring the data together to solve the problem, not what is convenient to me as a company, right? And
Right.
so you need to go look for the providers that are thinking in that way, right? It's not
Yeah.
like what some product manager decided at this company and said, oh, this is what we store, this is what we don't store.
Right.
It's
Right.
you either access all, or you're
Mhm.
going to always be incomplete. So we are going to see a bloodbath of tools, right? And companies just not survive because they're not capable of going big, right?
Right.
They're like,
Right.
well, I'm just a little meeting recorder and I'll do all these nice summaries, but that's as far as I go. Or you're
Right.
going to people trying. So it's going to be very good for the customer, right? For the buyer to be able to say like, see where this goes. So
Yeah.
that's like that one. So tactically, you want something that has the data in one place, but then you need the functionality and search and the capabilities, right? And to do that, and you have to go beyond. Most people are ignoring. I'm just saying the stuff that is kind of obvious to me, but maybe not to everybody. But the most important thing is the communication data from the customer, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where the gold is right now. And then the other, which is most of the time, is ignored. Nobody's paying attention to it. Instead, they
Yeah.
rather create fields from the CRM. It's like,
Right.
what's the next step? When should we reach out again?
So getting to that point of all in one place seems like a hard and it's not, doesn't seem, it is a hard thing to do, especially if you're not a brand new company, right? Creating brand new data. When you think about LLM having access to vectorized data or open graph data or any of that in its process, so the agents can then take it and act on it accordingly. Um, how do we, and maybe we can stay away from the how questions. When should they start testing that? So if someone comes to you today, how do you start getting them or showing them ROI or showing them the proof is in the pudding kind of thing?
Should I be like advertising my product, or
Go
is it?
ahead,
I
let
mean,
it rip.
that's what we do, right? So
Yeah.
we're going in stages, right, into this vision, right, which is people coming to agency drift. I'm still like, that 8 years of my life. What we're saying is really, let's bring that data together into one place where you can ask questions and not have to copy and paste a single thing, right? And so it's like, prep me for this meeting, draft me this follow-up, right?
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
is this customer. Like, you want to be able to know these things, right? And just it being seamless, right? So I would say that people need to be. It's really hard. I think everybody's like is being forced to use AI. Every CEO is copying what Toby says, what Louis Bona says. Like, okay, let's all use AI, but you get no
Yep.
budget, you get no authority. Security will
Yep.
block the purchase, right? And then
Right.
that's customer data. You can't use it. And so people are like really stuck. And then what they do is they sneakily just copy and paste stuff into ChatGPT. But
Yep.
you want to be looking at vendors that can do that and that they can show you a real live demo. I
Right.
see competitors like showing like Loom videos of demos of product, and people are like, should I buy this? And I'm like, no, it's not live.
Right.
So we want to do that. So first unification, then the next thing is, can you query it? But what I learned,
Mm-hmm.
people are still learning how to use ChatGPT, right? There might be a billion users, but a billion users doesn't mean they know how to use it, right?
Right.
And so what's happening is that I think is a lot. I'm sorry, but I think it's a lot for humans to know what to ask in every single screen or every single question. And and what you quickly realize when you're building a product like mine is that just all you end up asking is the same question over and over and over. So, what's the health of my customer?
Yeah.
It's prep me for the next meeting, follow up with this meeting.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so we're like, we have an opportunity now when you see that of like how we should be helping and guiding the human and what's the role of the human in interacting with the customer. And so
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff that's kind of like where I am, right? It's like trying to balance of like how do we help companies adopt agency in starting in the customer success department and being able to know the difference between me organize the work that the human has to do versus me doing the work for the human. Right?
Yes. Yes. Now, do you end up fighting those battles? Because everybody says on one side of their mouth that all the revenues in expansion, but we know that net new logos get the glory and they get the budget and the attention and all of that other stuff. So do you see a shift happening now where, because that narrative of people buy from people, it's all about relationships, it's all about the brand is the moat? Are you seeing that shift take place with those CS teams yet, or is that just more
It's
hot
just
air?
a lot of hot air. It's a lot of bullshit. I mean, I think that it pains me to see CEOs like just repeat what they hear. They just perform it, or they're just trying to sound like leaders. I don't really give a shit. I'm just telling it like it is.
Yeah.
Back up what you're saying. You know what I mean? If you're going to write a message, a letter, and say like, let's use AI, then go help your team. If you
Yeah.
think renewals are important, then go sit down with them and say, I want to help you. Like,
Yeah.
right. But instead, they just kind of, everybody's overwhelmed. We're all human. So I'll give them a break there, right? But the truth is I've been in that seat, right? When you're at the board meeting, you said you were going to reach this level of churn or GRR or NRR, and then you did not hit the number, but you're like so overwhelmed by so many problems in the company, partly because you really got so big. And then
Yeah.
the numbers, okay, whatever. It was supposed to be 87 and we landed at 79 GRR. And it's like, oh well, we'll do an analysis and we'll come back and maybe try again next quarter. But the reality is that customers want to hear from you, right? And
Yeah.
and now we have tools. Before it was really hard to understand that. So if
Mm-hmm.
a customer comes to me and says, Elias, help me analyze what happened last quarter and tell me what's going to happen next quarter, I can do that today in 5 minutes, in less. It's kind of like instantaneous, right? I
Yeah.
can tell you like what's going to happen. Like you have not talked to this 100 customers that you're renewing in 6 months. And this is
Yeah.
what happened in the last conversation and so forth. So at least I equip you. So now let's be strategic and discuss, okay, who are we going to send to talk and what are we going to say?
Right. Yes.
And you'll never
Yes.
realize. That's something that people have just never done before. It was never at their fingertips. It's still not possible. Maybe only through agency, right? Or
Yeah.
whether you're doing a custom, in-house build. But why would you want to, hire take 5 engineers from your product to go spend that with CS when you
Right.
can use it, right?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And we have a question from the audience. It says customer success is now becoming filled with more sales engineers. I'm seeing. How do you see AI impact the workflows here? I see it as a co-pilot, but would love your thoughts.
Repeat the question. So we have sales engineers, right? We have
Yep.
interesting. I mean, that's a good thing, if people are devoting more resources to help technically the customer solve the problem. Tell me about the co-pilot part again.
They were just asking, as a follow-up. So they were asking, how do you see AI impact the workflows? I guess as more sales engineers come inside of customer success, AI will impact their workflows, potentially as a co-pilot. That's how this viewer sees it. Do you see it interacting that way, or do you see it learning or behaving as a sales engineer?
Yeah, I mean,
What do you feel like that?
some people might not like to hear this, but the reality is that what I hear everybody telling me is that they want to serve more customers with less people.
All day.
I mean, like that's what an executive, that's what a CEO will say, right? It's like that's so I think we all have to accept that, right? And we might not like it, and so we need to figure out and understand that in order for that to occur, it's not about a tool just helping you go and have a CSM manage instead of 20 customers manage 3x, manage 60, manage 100. Right? It's like how a CS person is going to manage 1,000. And so people, when I say that on LinkedIn, people are like, "Oh, what? You're crazy, 1,000." Like, people are like, "You're nuts." And I'm like, "Well, it's different, right? It's not like you're going to be messaging 1,000 people, but AI is going to be messaging 1,000 people." And so I think I want to always put myself in the seat of the customer and say, like, I want you to greet me as Mr. Torres when I walk into the hotel. But if I have a question and I need an extra pillow or I need, a snack or a tea in the morning, just deliver it. I don't want to go talk to someone. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like if I'm like, I'm getting older and I can't configure the iPad to bring down the blinds and the curtains and, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, I would like just to ask the room, like, turn them off.
Yeah.
It-
Yeah.
like we don't, we just, that shouldn't be hard to envision, right?
Yeah.
The customer wants the minimum amount of interaction. They want the most results.
Right.
Companies want to spend the least amount of money, and customers want to spend the least amount of time. Like when I have, I spent $200,000 recently on a vendor, trying to not name any names, and I'm a good customer. They switched the CSM, whatever reason. Maybe I'm getting upgraded, maybe I'm not. And the person said, "Can we schedule a call?" That's it. That was in this. And I'm just like, I am not interested in joining an hour call. I'm back to back meetings with my customers trying to serve them that they're asking me to meet, right? Or they giving me their time. And so kind of define the new rules and say, what if you sent an email that says, I review all your meetings that you have had. I check the entire history of this Slack channel. I check your account and your expenditure. I see all the people in your team. I have an analysis. I'm caught up with you guys. I see that these things you've asked we've done. And I see these things that we asked, like, zero data retention. You have not resolved it. Be great if you started like that.
Yes.
I'm working on this. If you need anything, I'm here just raising my hand.
Yeah. And they have the data. They're just not leveraging it.
It's a, why would I show up to a meeting when you have done zero effort?
Right.
By the way, that's a mistake I made the other day, right? I use agency. I can see everything, right? Yet I was on the phone and I was on a cab and I just message a customer and I say, "How you doing?" Without checking agency first.
You need that. That
disrespectful. That was disrespectful, right? I asked the customer to tell me how they're doing. I am putting the burden on them to tell me everything when I already knew a lot of stuff.
Right.
At least I should check my system before I send that message. And so I'm just giving examples how we all need to evolve how we treat customers.
Right. And it feels that way. Like when someone reaches out and doesn't know everything about you already, I have to now burn calories to get you caught up or remind you who I am. And all of that is a waste of my time when, time is the only resource that we have that actually matters.
That humans have. This is the most expensive resource, and we need to value everyone, especially your customers, to maximize their outcomes, their success, and minimize the effort they have to put in, especially communicating and repeating myself. There's nothing I hate more than repeating myself. And let's not make our customers repeat themselves, right?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
I mean, this has not changed. It's pre-AI, post-AI. It's like,
yes. Now, do you see companies hiring big swaths of people in sales, marketing, operations, or even customer success? Almost any role now, if you're hiring big numbers of people, is that a bellwether for you that they're not really pursuing AI the way that they could be or should be, especially where we are today?
I mean, I think is reasonable it's to me, it's extremely silly, right? It's extremely silly that it's not being counterbalanced, right? If you're hiring all these people, I get it, and I understand that. Look, if you were already big and you have an onslaught of customers and you don't have a solution, go hire the people, right? It's
Yeah.
like continue today, like the customers
Fix
are.
it now.
And so, however, you should be, if the investment is not equal
Right.
to the number of people, if you hire 10 CSMs and you're not spending $1 million in AI exploration or tooling or building internally, right?
Yeah.
Then you're never going to get out of that hole, right?
Yeah.
And then I feel bad for you. But if you say I'm hiring 10 and I'm dropping the same amount of money on this, right? And eventually transition, then you're smart, right? That's how it should be. But if you're
Yeah.
just talking out there and making videos all day long, how you're like AI first in your company, but the reality is that you ask people in their company, are we AI first? And people just laugh. This are the things that as founder, I have learned them, right? I know we're
Hmm.
in the Slacks and the DMs, or when we go out, for a drink or a full coffee. You want people to tell you the truth, right?
Yeah.
Are we being AI forward? Are we being progressive and moving into the future so we can survive? Like, your employees want you to do that because they care about their families and how they're going to provide. So they want clarity. Are we going to survive or not survive? Forget about your job. Will the company?
Right.
It's this.
Hmm. Yeah. Now you talked about people kind of asking the same routine questions. And I think, 7 or 8 years ago, AI was used to, or at least machine learning was used to help identify the questions that we don't necessarily know to ask of the data. Do you think it's meta to have, given that we're hire less people, those people will manage many different types of agents or orchestrate them all together? Do you think there will be an agent to help you run the agents? And I'm just spitballing a little here, even if that's meta.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little too meta. Yeah, at that point, we're being very subjective because the truth is, like, I don't see many agents deployed. I mean, like, what agency does, I don't know. I don't even know what the definition of an agent. Like, if an agent, like, for example, I'll give an example. Agency is reading every communication of every one of your customers, right? 24/7, checking in multiple times a day on what you should be responding to this customer, or what has expired or elapsed or is due, right? And I don't know. Somebody might argue it's not a full agent yet, right? It's like, so people have different definitions. So people will be like, until that agent replied by itself, like, well, I'm still human in the loop. And so there's just not that many agents. So I don't like to talk too much in the nonsense world of like, well, will the agents talk to the agents and agents talk to itself? And like, I don't know. Well, I'll worry about that. I know we're moving towards something, but I rather care about what I help for my customers today, right? It's
Sure.
a I will solve this today for you. Like, is this valuable to you? It's interesting. How is, at the education, we're in a phase that as startups, AI startups don't realize that they have all this great tech. You're an early founder, first time, fantastic. You feel like you can do a lot. It's so accomplishes, but so does everyone else can do the same. But the reality is, you had the education in a new category that we all as founders have to do, plus
Mhm.
the dealing with change management from the users and the version of change that humans have. That's what founders end up learning the hard way, that it's much harder
Yeah,
than building the software,
for sure. For sure. When we think about just our own first party data, and we know that from partners, there's a lot more data. There's third party data that you can source. Um, Even if you have customer centricity and unified data, you still only have a snippet of the picture, right? A directional indication. Sometimes it might be, self-reported, very clear what's happening, but you may not see the whole picture. So does agency, and I'm just going to ask you about it because I'm interested. Does agency help also pull in any of that external data to help subsidize where your gaps might be? Or
I think the good thing is that I see all kinds of customers right now when I'm speaking to them, and they're like, some of them are just early in the infancy, where like, okay, I haven't even put in a transcript into ChatGPT from a call, right? I don't record to then like
Yeah.
the people that, okay, I want it unified, great, and the context. Some people value the fact that we're unifying things, but then some others are like, well, where's my 10Ks, and where is the lookups, and where is the Apollo data? So it's a wide range, and like I said before, it's like the only way you're going to survive is like if you do it all. I think, if you
Yeah.
just you do one slice of it, your company is not going to have a shot, at least in this space. I'm 50 years old next June, right? And so it's like I seen the bundling and unbundling of software multiple times. And so
Right.
go through every one of those eras, and I think we're going for the super Uber bundling, right? And it's going to be hard, right? To like,
Yep.
it was nice with Zerk, right? You can build a little thing that said, I will give you 3 stars after each meeting,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'll pay you $100,000 for that a year. Okay, great, that's important. That's gone.
Yeah. Unfortunately, those days are gone. So if teams are thinking about, what do we have, like 2 minutes left? If teams are thinking about how to evolve their customer success approach today, what should leaders think about today, and what should they do? Like, what should their first action later today be if they want to make this move towards agency?
The first thing that came in mind, I got 2 conversations with 2 heads of CS, right? One, validate how much your CEO cares about customers, how much support you have, top to bottom, of like what you're about to embark.
Mm-hmm.
I think CS leaders need to be given more authority, more agency, right? On how they're going to serve the customers.
Yep.
First. Second, I have had heads of CS that quit because they didn't have access to try agency, right?
Yeah.
Or like, it's
That makes sense.
proof is in the pudding, right? It's like, if we can't even try this, right, then why are we doing this?
Yep.
And I would say that it starts there. Like, do you have agency, right?
Mm-hmm.
And um, and then you have to confront the issue of AI and people and your team, and kind of unlearn. I was in the morning today with the head of CS in your company, and he's like, I've used all the tools in the past. I use Salesforce, I've used CSPs, I use all this stuff. And the stuff that you're telling me is just breaking my brain. And it's like, I need to unlearn, and I need to think differently, right? We need to really be willing to go back to first principles, right? And, for example, people have dream of generating a document that gives you the account health and summary of an account, instead of asking people over Slack and asking 10
Right.
before I go meet a customer. But now that we have that document, do we really need that document? We got to
Right.
challenge everything. Why do we need to do something? That's kind of my motto in life. Like, I want to do just the right amount, the right thing.
Dude, I love it. I love the mission you're on. It's desperately needed everywhere. So I appreciate the conversation.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
Thank you so much.